So, what if it was possible to overcome your anxiety, depression, and negative thinking, to finally free yourself from feeling like you have no control over your thoughts and emotions? Wouldn't you want it? Hi, I'm James Richards. I'm an anxiety and depression investigator. I've made it my life's work to advocate for people who suffer from the roller coaster ride of irrational emotional ups and downs. Because like you, I suffered from panic attacks, depression, fear, constant mental chatter, and I was plagued with the feeling that no matter what I did, nothing ever got better. In fact, I can't even begin to tell you how many dark nights of the soul I had, where I literally wished I could die just to escape the panic. Can you relate with that? But what if it was easy to focus on the thoughts that bring you excitement, relief, passion, joy, and a sense of never-ending anticipation for the good stuff coming your way, instead of always worrying about paying your bills, keeping food on the table, protecting your health, and making sure everyone you love is taken care of? Don't you want that? Don't you want to be free of the constant worry and thought chatter? Here's the thing. Every time you feel chronic stress, panic, anxiety, depression, and other negative emotion, you're depleting vital nutrients that your body requires in order to relax. And unless you replace those nutrients, it's virtually impossible for you to recover from anxiety or depression, no matter what you do. So if you ever feel like you're on an emotional roller coaster ride that just won't end, or you find yourself laying in bed at night and your mind just can't stop racing, thinking about all the things you have to do tomorrow and the next day, or even next year, well, you're not alone, and it's not your fault. What you're experiencing is something called sympathetic overdrive, also known as the fight-or-flight response. It's a non-stop stress condition that's at the very core of some of today's biggest health problems, like brain fog, anxiety, depression, fatigue, irrational responses, feeling excessively burnt out, and dealing with weird mystery symptoms. And it's a survival mechanism that, once upon a time, was only for actual lions and tigers, or imminent danger. But nowadays, with so much constant stress in our lives, we just can't turn off our stress response and truly allow ourselves and our bodies to simply relax. But there is a solution. And like thousands of other people, it's a solution that could potentially transform the way you respond to stress and life forever, so you never have to endure the suffering of excessive anxiety or fear again. Of course, if you're like most people who deal with panic attacks, irrational insecurity, never-ending fear, and even full-blown depression, well, it's usually hard to believe anything can, much less will, get better, because of always bumping up against your own negative internal dialogue. Well, again, you're not alone. Your body has a very limited stress response reserve, which is your physiological ability to healthfully respond to stress. And when that reserve, or your ability to healthfully respond to stress, is used up, it's like trying to write a check from an overdrawn bank account. In fact, your body is very much like a bank. You see, you can only make so many withdrawals before you're bankrupt. In other words, when you're nutritionally depleted as a result of dealing with non-stop stress, there's nothing left for you to give anyone, much less yourself. And it leaves you feeling even more emotionally exhausted and your body nutritionally depleted, leaving you feeling simply defeated. And until you deposit currency or very specific nutrients back into the bank or your body, you'll likely continue to feel panic-ridden, anxious, and way too stressed. You may even have a feeling of impending doom and outright depression for years to come. But please, do take a sigh of relief, because you are not alone in feeling this way. This current epidemic of sympathetic overdrive is currently affecting millions of people worldwide, and it's mostly due to how stressful and exhausting modern life is. Heck, did you know just looking at blue light on your smartphone, computer, and TV triggers the fight-or-flight response and drains you of your magnesium reserves? And when you're out of available magnesium, you're likely to feel no energy and no ability to relax. And when you can't relax, it makes your mind go crazy. You know the feeling when the noise in your head is so loud that you're never ever free from feeling stress? Stress that's so pervasive, you can literally become emotionally trapped in a state of never-ending anxiety and panic about what's going to happen to you and your family next. Now, that stress has a name. It's called cortisol. Cortisol is a stress hormone that gives you the feeling of impending doom in the pit of your stomach. And anytime you feel stressed out, anxiety-ridden, anxious, or just plain afraid of what could happen to you, cortisol floods your bloodstream. And get this, Happy brain chemicals like dopamine and serotonin tend to stay in your bloodstream for about 5 minutes, so they're fleeting sensations, making happiness a fleeting feeling. However, cortisol can stay in your bloodstream longer than your happy chemicals due to certain nutritional deficiencies. Nutritional deficiencies that constantly trigger the release of this fear-inducing hormone again and again and again without any reprieve. It's a sick joke, right? With that in mind, I want you to hear this, because believe it or not, there's another reason you can't free yourself from feeling stressed, anxious, depressed, and fearful. You see, human beings are the only animal that can torture ourselves for the same thing again and again and again in our imaginations. And it's true. Even when the actual danger or problem has long passed, we just can't turn it off, which is what every other animal does once the sign of danger has passed. It's a protective mechanism that's programmed into our very own DNA. It's called negative bias. I know, sounds complicated, but it's really not. All it means is you're always scanning for problems or anticipating problems that often won't even end up happening. But imagining problems, even if they never happen, affects your body in the same way experiencing real danger does. And as you probably know, when things actually are bad, negative bias will never let you rest or let you be you and fully recover from the seemingly never-ending onslaught of life's problems. This unending stress keeps your fear and anxiety levels pedal to the metal. But the downward spiral gets worse. Because if you're like me, you probably turn to comfort foods like cookies, chips, ice creams, cakes, wine, beer, hard alcohol just to deal with the stress. Of course, that only compounds the problem that's making being you such an incredible nightmare. Now, I want to make one more point. Quickly, I want you to imagine everything that triggers fear, anxiety, and panic within you. Maybe it's feeling like things will just never get any better. Whatever it is, I want you to imagine that everything you're feeling, fear, anxiety, or insecure about, gets stored in a backpack you wear and take with you everywhere you go 24/7. Well, eventually that backpack is going to fill up with so much story about your problems and so-called failures and overall negative emotion that it becomes hard to simply function on a day-to-day basis. That's simply what happens when you're so bogged down by everything your brain is trying to process, it accumulates or builds up, and your body never lets go of the stress because it can't. Well, I'm happy to say your nightmare is almost over. Let me introduce you to a brand new anxiety-slashing solution called AnxietyFX. Now, AnxietyFX is based on peer-reviewed research and is specifically formulated to combat anxiety and give you back your body's innate ability to deal with stress by giving it the nutrition it requires. Because let's face it, life is hard enough, but when the nutrients that give you the ability to easily feel happy are deficient, life feels like even more of an uphill battle. It really can't be any other way. Now, when life is harder than normal, you burn through huge amounts of your stress response nutrients, faster than your body designed to deal with. As a result, your emotions malfunction. I mean, every single time your stress response is triggered, your body is forced to work overtime. It's like your life is stuck with your finger on the fast forward button. This burns through minerals like magnesium, which I mentioned earlier, faster than you'll ever be able to eat enough leafy greens to replete magnesium. And I'm singling out magnesium for a reason, because this essential mineral is what activates energy at the cellular level. So when you're magnesium deficient, two things happen. Number one, you have less energy potential. And number two, you can't relax. Now, one of the reasons magnesium deficiency literally stops you dead in your tracks from relaxing is simple. As your stress response is constantly triggered, your body runs on the stress hormones cortisol and adrenaline, which in turn burns even more magnesium. You also have an emotional fuse. It's a happy chemical called serotonin, and when you're at the end of your emotional fuse, your serotonin reserves are used up, like Los Angeles uses up water and finds itself in drought after drought. Now, serotonin is responsible for helping you feel calm and safe. Has it been a while since you felt calm or safe? It may be because your body is way too busy making stress hormones and not the feel-good hormones you so desperately long for. You see, it's one or the other. If you don't have enough nutrients to make both, your body chooses stress over calm and relaxation. And you and your health and even your family suffer as a result. Because when one person is stressed, Everyone feels it. You and your family deserve way better. You deserve to feel safe, happy, and at peace. Now let me ask you a question. How are you expected to deal with life when your very chemical fuse has already, in a sense, detonated? In this case, your very sanity being the bomb. That's why we added something called tryptophan into AnxietyFX. You've probably heard of it, because it's the stuff that makes you feel sleepy after eating turkey. But it turns out, tryptophan is a critical amino acid that ultimately becomes serotonin. And if you're not getting enough tryptophan from your food, which you very likely aren't, you won't have the chemical fuse to healthfully respond to stress and life. AnxietyFX also contains another ingredient that becomes serotonin in the body. It's called 5-hydroxytryptophan. What's super exciting is that studies have shown that 5-HTP and tryptophan may be as effective as SSRIs, or those antidepressants that everyone and their sister seems to be on, which I'll talk about more in a second. GABA has also been added to AnxietyFX for its ability to put the brake on stress. GABA is a chemical your body naturally produces to help you feel calm and relaxed. But when our body doesn't have enough GABA, we tend to feel depressed, anxious, and we may even suffer from insomnia. Ever heard of Xanax, Ambien, or Valium? Yep, they all work by boosting the amount of GABA in your body. But unlike those drugs that can actually be extremely addictive, the GABA in AnxietyFX doesn't produce harmful side effects. Now, AnxietyFX is also enriched with botanicals that have been used for centuries to help balance and stabilize mood. Ashwagandha has been used in Indian medicine to help people overcome stress and even nervous exhaustion. Sound familiar? Now here's the science behind it. Ashwagandha works by binding to certain sites in your nervous system that help to reduce stress and anxiety. These are actually the same sites that anti-anxiety drugs bind to, but ashwagandha won't give you the side effects those drugs do. Chamomile, the common nighttime tea, is actually extremely powerful for its calming effects. You see, it actually helps boost the amount of GABA in your body. This is the chemical that helps to reduce stress and anxiety, allowing you to feel calm and relaxed. Now, a big part of what makes AnxietyFX so effective is because it supplies your body with the B vitamins it so desperately needs in order for you to finally be free from anxiety. When we are constantly stressed out, the amount of B vitamins in our body plummets. Even worse when we are stuck in sympathetic overdrive. Our body is pumping out tons and tons of adrenaline. And well, guess what? Producing adrenaline, which is a huge part of your stress response, requires tons and tons of B vitamins. And with all those vitamins going towards our stress hormones, we end up constantly feeling on edge and unable to relax. The reason? Those same B vitamins are required to make serotonin and dopamine, the feel-good hormones. But it's really not your body's fault that it's making you feel stressed instead of relaxed. Now, our bodies naturally do this because, in the past, it helped us survive or escape from danger. These days, unfortunately, opening an overdue bill elicits the same response in our body. And that's why we are chronically depleted in the ingredients our bodies require to allow us to feel good, relaxed, and safe. And remember, being stressed out and nutritionally depleted has massive consequences. Depression, anxiety, and insomnia are just the most obvious ones. Chronic stress can also contribute to serious health consequences down the road. And worse, the things you do now to cope, like snacking on junk foods, are loaded with empty and even toxic calories. And eating those types of foods almost inevitably leads to more emotional and physical health problems like weight gain and fatigue, just to name a few. Now, I do have some bad news. We often run out of AnxietyFX because we only source the very best ingredients for every small batch we create. The good news is, if you're seeing this message, we currently have AnxietyFX in stock. So here's what I recommend. Fill out your information and click or tap the Rush My Order button. Your secured payment will be processed and your order of AnxietyFX will immediately be shipped out and at your front door in just days. Oh, and your order is backed by our 30-day empty bottle guarantee. Meaning if you finish your bottle of AnxietyFX and don't feel happier, calmer, and more at peace, please call or email us and we'll give you a no questions asked refund. You literally only have happiness and a quieter mind to gain and nothing to lose. Just imagine what it will feel like to have control over your emotions again. How amazing it will be when the stressful situations that presently knock you off your feet barely affect you. Or when you can be the beacon of calm, peaceful light even if you're surrounded by man-made or natural disasters. That's the power of AnxietyFX. And again, if you don't agree, I have zero interest in keeping a penny of your money. I'm only interested in helping you get results. That's why we developed AnxietyFX in the first place. So if you don't feel like AnxietyFX works for you, let us know and we'll take care of you. Now, this really is a crucial moment in your life. You could finally be on the verge of having a completely different and perhaps brand new experience of life. That's not something you just leave on the table, especially if you've been battling anxiety, panic, fear, stress, and even depression for years. And quite frankly, even if you haven't been dealing with thought chatter, sleeplessness, or dark nights of the soul for a long time, why leave such a potential nightmare to risk? So I want you to imagine you're at a crossroads. To the left is a life where you're getting many of the missing nutrients you've been denied of and must have to respond to stress in a healthy way. And to the right, well, it's just more of the same and worse. Because remember, you're carrying around the emotional baggage of circumstances that happened 10, 20, even 50 years ago, depending on your age. Isn't it time to give yourself back the calm, peace, and happiness you deserve? And look, it's estimated that 1 in every 10 Americans take antidepressants. And believe it or not, the burden of depression is 50% higher for women than it is for men. In fact, it's estimated that 1 out of every 4 American women are on antidepressants. That's millions of people in the United States alone that take antidepressants because today's modern stresses have depleted their nutritional ability to deal with life. But again, you don't have to be just another statistic. Things can get better. You can recover from anxiety, panic attacks, thought chatter, and mind-numbing fear. You can get your life back and enjoy freedom you probably forgot existed. The freedom to enjoy life without a feeling of impending doom always affecting and overwhelming you. So choose the left fork in the road. Choose to be happy and give your body the nutritional ability to help you actually be happy and truly free. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you on the other side.